Mr. Sai Deepak, how do you react to Zubair Memon, who says that this is a natural outburst of frustration because members of his community are being persecuted only because the BJP wants to do balancing act?
See, I don't think I can speak for the BJP. I don't know what goes on in the mind of the BJP anymore. Not that I ever had any inkling about it in the first place. All I can say is that, notwithstanding the condemnations of people like Mr. Beg, which I welcome, the fact of the matter is street veto is running amok. And the Indian state has proven itself to be impotent, and I dare use the word impotent, in curbing street veto in the first place. Anybody thinks that he can amass a mob of 500 or 1,000, and the police have to run after these people, giving them escort as they go about vandalizing and destroying public property. What Vishwaguru ambitions do we have here? I really don't understand. What are these aspirations where you can't seem to rein in these hooligans, these ruffians and rowdies? That's the language to be used. Absolute wild people, whoever they may be, who at the end of the day have the gall, the gumption and the guts to hang an effigy of Nupur Sharma, that poor lady, and also issue a threat that she will be beheaded. This is a testament to the impotence and the softness, the inherent softness of the Indian state, which hasn't changed regardless of the dispensation. I can understand that the government may have any number of compulsions and considerations where it has to handle the optics globally. I'm not going to sit here and pontificate on what they must have done or ought to have done in the face of, let's say, the onslaught from the global ummah. There are other considerations at play, so therefore I'm not getting into that. But is it your case that you can't rein in these hooligans? Across the country, they've endangered lives. They've issued threats to communities en masse. It doesn't make a difference whether it's a BJP-ruled state or a non-BJP-ruled state. The fact of the matter is the distinction no more exists when it comes to these issues. It is soft across the board. So the buck, according to me, stops and starts with the government, because those who believe in street veto will continue to exercise that. It is for the government to rein them in. And in that regard, I'm sorry to say, state governments and central government have certainly failed miserably and abysmally. It means that all of us are at the mercy of these bloodthirsty mobs. That's the most worrying aspect of this. And whatever this leads to, tomorrow, I'm sorry to say, Newton's law in action, I hope, doesn't kick in, because that effectively will start another round of narrative that this is a Hindu majority, fascist majoritarian country that's out to stifle minorities. When people go about defending themselves, that will be the next allegation. So I hope that the government wakes up from its Kumbhakarna slumber and cracks the whip. That's all I have to say. With respect to shriveling that have been floating around on social media by people like Sabha Naqvi have been around for at least 2 weeks now. And knowing fully well that the very same bloodthirsty calls that are being made with respect to Ms. Nupur Sharma, that respectable lady, and knowing fully well that she too could be prosecuted under Section 295A and 153A, she has come out with a cop-out tweet 2 days ago basically saying that we are going down a tricky path if we start prosecuting people for statements which are considered blasphemous, because there could be two opinions on the same issue. Now, if this is the statement or this is the position you wish to take with respect to shriveling, into which a 63-centimeter hole has been drilled, and which is one of the most sacred sites and perhaps the most sacred site for Hinduism, and that is your position, and commentators on social media circulated pictures of condoms over shriveling, specifically a lady called Sayani Ghosh has done this. These people are out in the large and out at large, and we are being told that some people cannot contain their anger, and therefore they must be allowed to give free expression to their outburst and to their outrage and to their feelings of being sacrileged and whatnot. Now, how is street veto the exclusive preserve of a particular group? I'm sorry to say, I'd like to see which provision of the Constitution secures for a minority this particular right, saying if you happen to be a minority you're entitled to express your anger in a manner which is unconstitutional, and that will be deemed constitutional. I'd like to understand which provision of the law permits all of this. There are a certain class of creatures in this country called constitutional patriots who are happy to quote the Constitution when it suits them. So now I'll quote the Constitution. Criminal law, at the end of the day, law and order specifically, is a state subject. I stand by my statement that both the central government as well as the state governments have completely let down this particular society. However, if this is meant to be a situation where we start blaming the Prime Minister for it or somebody else for it, the fact of the matter is governments across the board have failed. And most importantly, the sign of that particular policeman who's whimpering is not because he is not in a position, he cannot defend himself. He knows for a fact that if he were to take any action to defend himself or to defend the rest of the society, he will be answerable not just to his superiors, but to the media establishment and to Lutyens Delhi, which will go after him for being a Hindutwadi fascist, even if he was trying to protect himself from the mob. That is what is holding back policemen. That is the fact of the matter. Cops in this country are not cowards. For somebody to be a policeman in India, it must take a lot of guts, especially with this kind of a population. And if they have to continue doing their jobs, they will do so provided you let them do their jobs without politically interfering with their jobs. That is the state of this particular country. And if he is not in a position to defend himself, I fear that communities will now have to start looking for alternative, hopefully constitutional options to defend themselves if they're faced with such a mob, because they cannot trust the police in any state to defend them. That's the fact of the matter, and that is the brutal reality. Sure. After Akbaruddin Owaisi's hate speech, alleged hate speech according to the Sessions Court of Telangana, which was delivered in December 2012, it took the police to register a case suo moto, 13 days to register the case, because nobody had the guts to come forward and report what was actually spewed during the course of that particular talk in Nirmal, in Telangana. And secondly, despite his statement being available on video, he's been let off the hook. And I was in fact in the process of sharing excerpts from the judgment before joining this particular debate to say what exactly was said there. Now, therefore, the law is effectively clear that such people can go scot-free and cases can be registered even 15 days later. In the case of Nupur Sharma, case has been registered across the country and she is not at flight risk. Most importantly, the test is this. According to the Sessions Court of Telangana, if a statement is offensive but does not rise to the level of incitement of violence, that does not amount to blasphemy under Section 295A, even if it causes offense to the sentiments of the believers. That is the position taken by the Telangana court with respect to Akbaruddin Owaisi. I am saying, let's apply the very same standard to what Ms. Nupur Sharma said. Whether what she said is right or wrong scripturally, I don't care. But she did not ask for incitement of violence, and therefore applying that particular standard, I don't think there is a problem legally speaking. And secondly, she is not at flight risk. So where is the problem? And since there are people who've been making fun of shriveling for the last 3 weeks, ever since the Gyamvapi controversy broke out, and since they seem to be comfortable in Sainik Farms and other places, I'm sure Nupur Sharma as well as Naveen Jindal have equal right to be safe.
I'm glad.
But the one reason they must be arrested, the only reason they must be arrested is because they are not safe outside.
I'm
That's
very
the reason
glad.
why Kamlesh Tiwari was arrested.
Yes, I'm here with us, Dr. Ranganathan. Why are we scared today, out of our living daylights, to condemn this Friday fury that is dancing around us, advocating the beheading of Nupur Sharma?
Good evening, Rahul. Look, there is no other way of saying it. Welcome to the Islamic Republic of India, where when you look right, there's a mob with Molotovs in hand glaring down at you. Where when you look left, there are intellectuals and academics itching to cancel and deprive you of your livelihood. Where when you look up, there's an effigy of yours swaying gently from a cable. And where when you look down, there's a freshly dug trench smelling of damp earth waiting for you to fall in. Welcome. This is not our future anymore. This is now our present. Resistance is futile. Submission is inevitable. We are and are men, and we can only follow. Never lead like a one-man army. So there will be no more brave gurus, Rahul, no more Banda Bahadurs or Sambhajis. We are the sheep being led to the slaughterhouse where la guillotine awaits. And as you wait for your turn in that long line, you can hear its distant rumble and then snap. Rahul, in town after town today, Delhi, Ranchi, Ludhiana, Prayagraj, Saharanpur, in state after state, Bihar, Bengal, Maharashtra, Punjab, UP, there are reports of widespread arson and rioting and attacks. The sounds of the azan have been subsumed by the chants of Sar Tan Se Juda. Scores have been injured. You may hate his guts, but Akbaruddin Owaisi was absolutely correct. The only thing that stands between Hindus and their total annihilation is the police. Remove it for 15 minutes and it's all over, Red Rover. Now to the second issue, Rahul, which is equally important. Let me be very clear. You cannot express solidarity with Nupur tonight and at the same time acquit the Modi government of all blame. Shame on those doing this. This government has thrown Nupur to the wolves. But that is not all. What is immensely troubling is the manner in which it has done it. And it's boasting at having done it. Your head bowed even before the sword descended. That is what is shameful. It has been 2 weeks and inexplicably, no one from the government has explained why Nupur quoting what is derived from the revered Islamic scriptures, Sahih Bukhari 5134 and Sunan Nasai 3378 constitutes blasphemy. Instead, they claimed what Nupur said was derogatory. So the hadiths are derogatory. With what face are the BJP supporters accusing someone called Zubair of dog whistling when your own government agrees with him that Nupur's comment was derogatory and that the, quote, punishment will be given to her would be a lesson to others, unquote. Had any top leader had the guts to challenge anyone with what I am challenging, what we are seeing today might not have transpired. Rahul, just 30 seconds. Unless Modi is following the first world concept of running a nation, not on compassion, not on cynicism, where human rights and freedom of expression of its citizens can be sacrificed at the altar of business interests. If that is the case, then say so. Citizens would be willing to be expendable for India's cause. You owe it to Nupur. You owe it to us. You owe it to the citizens of the freedom-loving Islamic Republic of India.
Well, Dr. Ranganathan, since your name was invoked, it's only fair that I bring you back in now that matters have sort of been cooled a little bit. Yes, you were being asked by Mr. Memon not to defend Nupur Sharma. How do you like to respond to Mr. Memon?
No, you know, this is the same gentleman, Mr. Memon, if you remember 2 days ago, that I went around all the 6 panelists, including myself, asking, do we condemn that slogan, Gustakhe Rasool ki ek hi saza, Sar Tan Se Juda, Sar Tan Se Juda? 3 people said, yes, we condemn, unequivocally. Mr. Memon was one who said, not at all. So you know where he's coming from. But, you know, as far as the previous panelists, a very considered, very you know, I would say tempered opinion, that I agree with. But I have to say very kindly, sir, that this is an argument that you or I cannot win because we are men, not God. And God or Allah has specifically ordered that those who abuse Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and the hereafter and prepared for them a humiliating punishment, 33. And that the penalty for those who wage war against Allah, as Khomeini said when he said Rushdie blasphemed, and in his messenger, is that they killed or crucified 533. For 1.8 billion Muslims, Allah's word is inviolable. We need to understand, anyone who is perceived to have abused Allah or His messenger will sooner or later meet the fate of Kamlesh Tiwari or Samuel Paty. It may take a week, a month, a year, a decade, but it will happen. That is why I keep repeating that it was crucial. I repeat, crucial, Rahul, for a top government leader, Modi or Shah, to challenge the Islamists with proving that what Nupur quoted from the hadiths was blasphemous, an incalculable fatal error that they haven't done. And now this is never going to stop, ever.